All right, so welcome everybody. So given the current climate of managing the challenges of everybody moving really to a remote workforce, I thought it would be timely to talk to you a little bit about what are some of the resources you can really leverage to understand not only what drives and motivates your people, but then taking that insight and thinking, well, how can I apply this to a team that are now working remotely? It's a new challenge for lots of reasons, emotionally, and even for our own psychology. It's challenging for everybody, and we're all challenged by the concept of it. As people are saying, the new norm. This is something we're going to have to work through and with, but PI is a great resource for you guys as managers to really understand your teams. So what I want to let you know is we've got a range of resources that will be made available to you. And the first thing is this leadership resilience guide. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can have a look at this in relation to your own profile and really understand your own strengths and cautions as a leader. There's going to be a manager's guide to leveraging PI in a remote work environment. This document is awesome. It really does go through a big component of the presentation, but actually what it does do is this presentation puts our Red Wolf flavor on it. We talk about some practical ways of really managing different profiles, but there's a great one-pager in there that talks about both the needs. So that's going to be a really good resource for you. And the other thing is a team guide. How do I know based on my team profile what I should be focusing on? So all of those resources will be made available through Basecamp on our website for you to download after this session. Now, I want to just quickly highlight these three elements. When we're thinking about most things in the work environment, the first starting point is self, right? You need to think about yourself. What is my natural style? What is my default behaviors? How am I responding to an environment? And then you need to think through, well, how am I now impacting the relationships around me? What can I do with the relationship I have with these individuals, and how do I need to adapt my style? And the third thing we think about is, well, how can you impact the team, and what type of team dynamic is there? So they're the three pieces we're going to walk through today together. And again, it's all using the same PI methodology, but it's again having a really practical element to it. So the first thing we must think about is self, which I know we all find hard, but you've really got to look at yourself before we can progress. So what we'd like you to do is have a look at where you sit. So in the team dynamics wheel, I want you to, when you get some time, have a look and plot yourself. Where do you sit in this wheel? The other place to have a look at in terms of your profile is when you go into explore team alignment, and you map yourself and your team and you click on individual breakdown, it starts to look at not only where you're individually placed, like we get in that team wheel, but it says actually we all have some preferences in the other quadrants. The question is how much? And you can see in this example, AL being me, you can see I'm very up in exploring, but I've got somewhat of a cultivating profile as well, because I sit actually quite close to that quadrant. Vicky, sitting closer to the producing quadrant, actually has quite a big block in producing. And because we're both so far away from stabilizing, we have none of that. So this is saying that all of our profiles have an element of flex. And one of the great guides that we have in this leadership resilience guide that you'll all get a copy of is you can start, it breaks down the four types: cultivating, exploring, stabilizing, and producing. And you can have a look at, well, what's my primary? Where do I operate the most? So for Vicky and I, it's going to be exploring. For Miguel here, it's going to be stabilizing. And you can go to the page in this workbook and go, okay, what do I need to think about? As exploring leaders, these are some of the natural behavioral strengths. But here are some of the crisis behaviors. Under pressure, a lot of people are under a lot of pressure and stress. What are some of the things that might happen? And really have that challenging conversation with yourself. What out of these is relevant? What's happening to me right now? What do I need to be thinking through? And there's some tips there and also some self-reflection questions. So for you guys as leaders, we always want to be helping you grow and develop as leaders. This is again an opportunity for you to build that self-awareness and understand your strength, but under crisis, under pressure, under stress, how might you respond? Now, not all those things are going to be true all the time, but what do those things really resonate with you? So this is a great activity for you to take away and really have a think about. Now the next is you +1. So this is thinking about, let's have a look at the profiles of the people in my team. Let's have a look at them. So it's going to be really helpful if you're sort of following along, is to bring up the profiles of your people so you can really see, you know, what's the nature, A, B, C, D, where does everybody sit? So the first factor we always look at, you know, one of the 4 factors is dominance, whether we've got that strong drive to exert influence on people or events, or is it low? I want to put my mark on the idea, or absolutely I'm very inclusive, is it more team orientated? If you're managing a low A person, so that low dominance drive, what I've done here is really outline some things that are important for this person. So naturally we know they love to collaborate, they're very team driven. In a remote environment, they might find that even harder because I'm no longer sitting in a pod at an office with all my peers where I can just, you know, maybe shout across or have a conversation, pull someone into a room and collaborate. They may not have those opportunities anymore. So you really want to make sure that they've got an opportunity to do that, and that they've got an environment to share ideas. They're naturally collaborative. They want to solve problems with others, not necessarily on their own all the time. So even what collaboration tools are you using? I know we sometimes think about things like Slack and some basic communication tools, but how are you creating an environment for collaboration? Naturally really selfless, these people are thinking about others. So how could they support other people? We find they're really good as buddies and mentors and coaches for other people, and that helps them sort of feel like they're giving back. And ultimately, they're going to have to do independent work. We all have to do that. That's the nature of work anyway. Working from home and remotely requires us to do more of that potentially than we've done before. So really encouraging them to break out times of the day for independent work, but also where in your day can you insert collaboration? Where can you still get that need met from your perspective? And ultimately, conflict is more avoidant in this style of individual. So they may avoid telling you something. And guess what? Remote work makes that harder. Are they going to tell you over Zoom? Versus, oh, I feel more comfortable if I was in person. I would probably be, some people are just more open in person than they are over Zoom. So again, for us as managers and leaders, are we asking the right questions to those individuals to create environment for openness? And then we think about those higher extroverts, the people that want to be in the driver's seat, the pilot of their own careers. You need to give them autonomy. So you need to give them a lot of clarity around what's expected of them. Where are you heading? What are the goals? What's the future? You know, and what do I want from you? They need that clear goals, a clear purpose, and an alignment to the big picture. So they really deal well when they understand how their job fits into the big picture. And they're very self-competitive. They want to do better, be better. So they need that. They're very self-motivated, but you need to make sure that continues. Are they feeling self-motivated? Have they got it clear enough goals? Are they feeling a sense of purpose in their work? What are you doing in that space for them? So they're sort of the 2 options there. And obviously people sit on a sliding scale. So you've got to be quite cautious of where do they sit on that sliding scale of dominance. But really thinking through from their lens. And what we like you to do is think about their needs. So we know when we did our PI training in our PI toolkit that one of the things we need to do is manage someone based on their needs. So if you have a look on page 6 of your toolkits back from training, this is what we're ultimately talking about. What does this person need based on their profile? And then apply a lens of remote work. They're feeling detached, feeling removed, they're feeling isolated. What's changed about their role? Go to page 6, have a look at their needs, and really apply your knowledge now that you're all on your PI journey. Next one, extroversion, the drive for social interaction, those high social drives, happy to include others, want to talk out an idea, or actually, no, I need some time to think things through on my own. I like to be reflective and creative in that space. So if we've got our low extroversion drive, we would say they're going to struggle to contribute more in those virtual meetings like they would in face-to-face meetings. You'll always find the higher extroverts spend more time talking than they do listening. So that's what we have to coach them on, is spend more time listening. But what we want to make sure is that they contribute. But to do that, you need making sure that you've given them time to think it through before the meeting. So springing meetings onto them where there's no agenda, there's no clarity around what the meeting's about, it's like they're going to turn up and feel unprepared. And so when you ask them on the spot, what do you think? Well, I haven't had time to think about it. So they're going to find that even more challenging. So think about, what can I do to set out an agenda, to have them think about what we're going to talk about, bring their ideas about this topic. They are strong problem solvers. So what problems are you throwing at them where they can leverage that reflection and creative time? And also, one of the things we sometimes do is the loudest voices often get heard. And sometimes we forget to check in with our more introspective individuals. And we forget that they still need that one-on-one time with you as a manager. So don't prioritize all your loud ones over the quiet ones. Those quiet ones still need clarity. They still need your attention, support, and coaching. So it's more just a reminder, don't forget about them. So then we move over to those higher social interaction people. They do want to connect. They do want to meet new people and talk out an idea. So what options do they have? Are you talking to them about, well, how are you connecting with your peers? Are you having check-ins? Or are you finding that it's been a whole week and they just really haven't, even taken a breath of air and they haven't spoken to their team members? There's also an option for you to think about, well, how could they work with some new people? Is there a project or something else where you could get them actually to expand into another department, another division? Let's give you an opportunity to work with some new people and build some new connections. Maybe they could be in charge of onboarding some new people in another department, like part of the welcoming crew. I don't know. You've got to sort of think creatively in this environment. And also the biggest challenge for them is that they are verbal problem solvers. So they are the whiteboarders. Let's book a meeting room. Let's talk it out. Let's whiteboard it. Let's draw it out. How are they solving problems when they're at home on their own? Do they have a whiteboard set up at home? Are they doing that digitally with their colleagues? There's some really cool technologies out there now for creative, visual creative problem solving. I guess the question is, what are they using? What are they doing? And asking that question of them, are they still finding they're able to resolve and solve problems? And connecting via video calls, it's kind of like of course, and we would suggest that with as many people as possible. I know we're all talking about Zoom fatigue, but keeping those meetings as structured as possible, getting rid of the meetings you just don't need, they're time wasters. But when you're having those one-on-one with these people, do try and do a video call where possible, and try and make that connection. Patience. So we've got our people who are more calm, stable, consistent. They deal well with routine and stability versus I thrive on pressure and change of variety. So then we have a look at, well, if they're on the low side, this is the I love to run 100 miles an hour. I love variety. I would make sure that they're really prioritizing tasks and projects. We know that they love to have lots of things on the go and can be more easily distracted because it's like, I'm working on 25 different things and I love working on those things. So sometimes they're very busy people. The question is, are they productive? And that's a question you need to be asking them and yourself as a manager. Have you set really clear goals and results? One of the things I'm working on a few clients actually is the OKR model. So objectives, key results, and breaking those down into 90-day milestones. And it's really helping people get clarity around not just being busy, but being productive. Am I working on the right type of activities that's going to lead our company to growth and where we need to be? Or am I just sort of doing the same old, and I'm prioritizing the wrong things? This helps give people clarity. So whatever model it is you're using, make sure you're really clear with your staff about what success looks like, what's expected of them, and then really make sure that they're self-accountable. Their desire to move quickly can come across as being too intense and restless. They might struggle with now the fact that they're at home, they've got no morning walk to the train, they've got no commute, they can't sort of have as much mobility that they previously may have had in their office job or whatever type of job they're in. So making sure that they have that ability to have mobility in their job. Is it that, have you been going out and working out? Have you been going for a walk? You know, sometimes even checking in on those basic needs are really important. And give them variety in their activities. They do like to have a few things on the go, and they do usually have a more positive response to pressure, is what we say. So make sure that they've got the healthy amount of pressure in their job. And the next thing is patience for the high side. So we know from their profile that they're a little bit slower to change, not resistant, just slower to change, and they need to understand the why. So with everything that's happening, some companies are going through lots of change. It might be a restructure, it might be your roles different. It's like, now we're moving, you know, to remote work, and now we're going to change our technology platforms on you. And there can be a lot of change happening all at once. So this might mean that you need to spend more time with this person, sort of preempting them. By the way, I know that this change is going to happen. Just preparing you for it. Here's why we're going to be doing it. And really setting some clear timelines and processes. And they're really good at creating those. So you might say, look, we're looking at rolling out this change. Can you help us execute on that? Because what we find is with these more calm, patient, steady types is, whilst they're more cautious with change, they're really good implementers of change, because they can think through the problems and what other people who are resistant to change might be thinking and feeling. So they're the ones who are really good at rolling out change. So make sure you can leverage them, bring them in on any type of change projects. What do they think? What hurdles might there be? How can we overcome them? They're very good listeners. So again, if you've got some people in the team that are struggling, if you calm them with you couple them with a high patience person, that patience person is really good at listening. A big strength of theirs. So it's that calming presence they usually have. And they're not going to rush people. So they've got that ability to take a breath. Let's pause. Naturally very loyal. They won't feel as comfortable with instability. So feeling they've got a bit of job security, all of those things are important, and that they're rewarded for that loyalty again. Formality, the drive to conform to rules and structure. You can see people who are going to have their home office set up like that. How meticulous are you versus how crazy is it? So with that low drive for rules and structure, it's going to be, they're free, they're flexible, they deal well with ambiguity. They need clear goals, but they need to get there their own way. They're not the follow a checklist type of individual. So if you get too tight on the micromanagement, they get more resistant to that. So let them find their own path. So have clear goals and clear timelines, but let them have some ownership over how they get there. And plenty of freedom to work as they see fit. So the standard 9 to 5's probably disappeared anyway, but making sure that they've got a freedom and flexibility to work how they choose, but be very outcome focused. So the best way to manage them is very outcome driven. And I always say, remind them of the non-negotiables. There's always non-negotiables at work. They can't break every rule. So what are those things that are the non-negotiables for you guys? Always say they've got to know the parameter, but they've got to be able to freely move within that. So again, your job to set that expectation with them. With our high rules and structure individuals, they do need a lot more clarity around what good and great looks like. And they're very much focused on their depth of knowledge. So these might be the people that during this time you get them to upskill in something extra, so that they can continue their depth of knowledge, because they thrive on that. And their ability to train and coach others is a really good idea as well. If you've got some really high formality people, they're great at training people in how to follow the rules. What does really good quality look like? You know, that standard. They're going to train the right standard. They may struggle with the fluidity of work that we now face. So talk to them about, what does structure look like for you in your day? Is it that you've got some structured breaks? Is it that you've got some structured start times? You know, got a colleague of ours who, you know, would still get dressed, put on their work gear, sit on their couch, watch 30 minutes of Netflix like they would on the train, and then start work. And it was like that real routine, sort of structured. Now I've started work, I'm mentally ready. You know, they would structure in some things. 12 o'clock, I'm gonna take a walk. You know, some things that you can plan in terms of some structure in your day. Any questions from the group?
It all makes a lot of sense. And when you think about it, yeah, that's practical application of the characteristics and needs of the people. So thank you. Yeah, it kind of gives insight.
Good, excellent. So in the guide about remote work on page 7, there is this one pager. Now they're not exactly the notes we've put together for this presentation. We've definitely put our flavor on it of some really practical tips we think are really helpful. This is some extra things as well, you know, what PI recommends for both high and low. What I would also recommend is you've got to almost create a full picture of that person. So whilst we can say, oh, they're a high A and they're a low C, you want to look at the whole picture. So if you've got a really high independent person who's high extroversion, low patience, and high formality, you've now got to then try and have that whole conversation with that person and take elements of that. So we know they're big picture driven for that example, they're highly socially orientated, they want to move quickly and do good quality work. Well, I need to make sure I focus on big goals. They're really clear. They've got lots of freedom to have a variety of tasks, need a healthy amount of pressure, all of the things we would have talked to you about in terms of how to best manage that person, but just applying that work lens. So in that example where you've got high A, high B, low C, and then the corporate hook, you've always got your management strategy guides, right, from the tool. They will always help you with how should I manage this person. It's good to think about, well, that would have been pre, and it's just that is how to manage that person, but how do things change now that maybe they're not in front of me every day? We don't sit in an office together. The fact is we're talking to each other remotely. Their role might have changed. You may have been customer facing. Now you're managing your clients over Zoom. You know, they're not getting all that social interaction they previously got. It's now over Zoom. How can you then support them with this? You'll see behind me on my wall are the placards of all of our PI team here. They are all there. And that's always a healthy reminder for me of like, who am I interacting with? What do they need from me in this conversation? You know, are they, you know, high dominance, low dominance? What do you need? You need lots of rules and structure. It's that adaptation that we need to have as leaders to be really effective and to be highly authentic, but very empathetic with who we're dealing with. So I told you we would think about self, us and other people, which was that section. And now you need to think about, okay, team dynamic. Let's bring it all together. What do we need to do once we start to think about lots of people? So the first thing is we'd get you to plot your team, your direct reports into the teamwork styles wheel. So under Inspire, go down to teamwork styles. And this gives you a pretty good indication of sort of the team dynamic where everybody sits. And we would highly recommend you sit your team down and you go through for 90 minutes, couple of hours and say, hey guys, let's real refresher. What do we all know about our own PIs? What drives and motivates us? But now let's have a look at our team dynamic. Great, this is where we all sit. What is our strength here? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? What in our business strategy is not allowing us to do this right now? And then think about the communication style of the team. So again, on that tab, what does this tell us? Okay, well, this group, very persuading, telling, they're a very socially orientated group. Are we all getting our needs met because we're all so disconnected from each other? What can we do to stay connected and feel that sense of connection as a community? And then decision making. Where do we all sit in decision making? Because as we go to remote, decision making becomes more and more complex. Are there people that are more conforming versus a lot of people who are selling and justifying their ideas? And what's the right balance for us as a team? We're not going to change the team, but we need to understand and respect each other. That's really critical. So I'd encourage you to do that and give your team a lot of clarity about each other, talk about your own strengths and cautions and the roles that you're in that is allowing you to do some of those things. And then I'd encourage you to explore team alignment in the Inspire tab. And I've done a whole base camp on this wheel, is then plot your team. So you add your team members and you plot them all in. So I've plotted our whole team, and we're a pathfinding team. So it says at the top, it just says that's what you are. You've got the majority of the people that sit on the right-hand side of the wheel. That's interesting, but what do I do with that? You might be a bolstering team. You might be a stabilizing team. So there's a whole range of different type of team structures depending on the weighting. You might be an adapting team. So in one of the resources that we're giving you is the Team Resilience Guide. And in here, it goes through the 12 different team formations. And I want you to find the page that your team is. So if we're a pathfinding team, that's the one I've pulled out, and it gives you a one-pager, just like your leadership styles did for you as an individual. This is now thinking about the team. If we're a pathfinding team, what is our strength? Great, fast-paced, speed, healthy conflict. All work is focused on the customer. But there's lots of other crisis behaviors. We're so focused on external, we don't build good internal processes. So we then need to talk about those things as a team. What things should we be focusing on? You know, the stop, start, continue model. What do we need to stop doing? What should we start? And what do we need to change? So for you guys, I think these are really incredibly powerful tools and gifts for you guys to help have better conversations with your teams that are still quite structured, but have some fluidity to them where you can have some really powerful conversations with them. So a reminder, the 3 resources today is the Leadership Resilience Guide. This is going to talk about yourself, and your team members can do this as well in terms of what's my leadership preference, where do I sit, am I exploring, producing, stabilizing, cultivating? I might be a little bit of 2 of those things. What's relevant? What can I do? The guide for you around how to manage remote work is a great guide. It's heaps and heaps of extra details that we haven't covered today. And then team resilience. What is my team dynamic? And what do we need to be cautious of as a team? How can I run a session with my own team and get them to understand and even just talk through those? That you don't have to overcook these sessions either. Sometimes we put it off because we're like, oh, this is too scary. These tools are very easy to use. So this one in particular, you might want to plot the team and actually say, okay, team, here's what we are. We're a pathfinding team. I've plotted all of our profiles in here. And I want to just go through this one pager today. Let's spend an hour. Let's have some little breakouts and talk about, you know, here are our strengths, here are our crises, here's some tips. What could we do here? It's saying share resources across the team. Have we not been sharing? Actually, maybe our drive's a bit messy and chaotic, and I don't know where to find things. Maybe you could resolve a few of the things that are going on. And self-reflection. You know, what are we doing? What could we be doing more of? So I'm hoping this has been super helpful for everybody. I'll see if anybody has any questions. Great, I'm getting a thumbs up. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Good luck, enjoy your day. We are always here for you. You know, remember, our job is to really enable you as leaders, give you those tools and resources, build your confidence. If there's anything in here you want to talk about, you want to go through, you want to prepare yourself to do one for your own team, ring me, ring Vicky. Vicky's going to be our new customer success manager that you're all going to meet shortly. So yes, we're here to support you. All right, well, thank you, everybody.